5 o'clock, we'll start our meeting, February 8th at 5 o'clock. Everybody's in attendance. In keeping with the ongoing emergency order from Governor Charlie Baker to limit gatherings and maximize social distancing, and under legislation passed to address remote board meetings during the emergency declaration, this meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To join a remote meeting using your computer, click on the URL at the top of the meeting agenda or copy it and paste it to your browser. To join a remote meeting using your phone, call the number provided underneath the URL. You will be needing the meeting ID to join by phone only. Okay, so do we have to make a motion for from our last meeting? I don't see that on the agenda.
It'll accept the minutes.
Minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes for the Board of Health meeting from January 19th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Zayas, yes.
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. And the first thing we have is on the agenda after that is the variances. 52 Turnpike Street, requesting a variance to allow a 24.32% reduction of the required leaching area in the leaching field setback reduction from 50 feet to 25 feet concurrently.
Mark, is this
George Collins.
Okay, I'm going to admit George into the room.
Okay.
Are they both George?
They're both George Collins, yes.
All right, and we have George Collins.
George, you're on mute.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Good evening,
Can
George.
you hear me? You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Would you like me to proceed?
Yes,
Chris?
with 52 Turnpike Street, please, George.
Yeah, so my name's George Collins. I'm a registered professional engineer. I'm working for Mr. William Murphy, the owner of 52 Turnpike Street. It's kind of an unusual set of circumstances where we collected soil samples at this property. I believe Mark did the perk with us. And we collected soil samples. One soil sample came back poor and the other one came back very poor. So we ended up following the state guidelines and designed the septic system, and very, very large septic system. And my client, he's getting construction quotes in the low $60,000 range. And it's a 3-bedroom house. It's actually, so he and I discussed with him what some of our options might be to ultimately reduce cost. So what it is a common thing that we do is we do the water table separation reductions, lowering the system cost to the groundwater. And then we also do, like in this case, we have, we're within 50 feet of a wetland. So the way the code is written, there's certain variances or local upgrade approvals that we can't request at the same time through the local upgrade approval process. However, it's within the purview of the board of any projects less than 10,000 gallons a day, which this is 330 gallons a day. It is within the purview of the board to grant variances under special circumstances. This is something that I have done 2 times in West Bridgewater. Very similar situation, just a small old house with bad soils and a really small lot. So we ended up. So what I suggested is that we could do what's called one local upgrade approval request that is allowable by itself is the reduction of the leaching area by up to 25%. But the way the regulations are written, we're also requesting a setback reduction less than 50 feet to the wetland. So we're not supposed to request both of those at the same time. So that's basically what I'm asking you this evening, is to allow both of these, let's call them variances, at the same time. And what we're accomplishing with this, I'm hoping that he's going to save $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 on construction costs. It's going to reduce the impact on the site. Right now, the way the plan is approved, let's see here, what do we have here?
Both of them will be in fact.
I'm sorry, what was that? So basically, the original proposal was only 15 feet off the wetland. By reducing the septic system size, we're getting further away from the wetland. We're going to 25 feet, but we are maintaining the 4-foot water table separation requirement. So again, what the variance that we're requesting is to allow the 25% area reduction and the setback to the wetland reduction at the same time. Couple things that are site specific with this is that this is not in a Zone 2 water protection district, which if it was, then I would, we might want to take a closer look at this. It's also not in any type of wildlife habitat area or natural heritage or endangered species program jurisdiction, anything like that. So it's basically, it's a standalone wetland, and it does not have any supplemental zones that it's in. Basically not in a water protection district. So basically that's what we're trying to accomplish, to allow the area reduction while being less than 50 feet to the wetland at the same time. We did notify the immediate butters, and I believe all that information is posted on Permitize.
And Mark, you had a chance to review this. Are there any concerns regarding health? If we did like this?
I did review this and the previous plan, the first plan. So I don't have issues. I'm just checking Permitize real quick while we're up on here to see the abutter proofs have been received and uploaded to the permit. So the process has been followed the way it's supposed to for a variance. I don't have a problem with it. I actually like to defer and ask Kristen if she has any opinion on it. If she doesn't, then I'd be okay with it. So, but it's just, you're not supposed to get 2 bites at the apple, for the lack of a better term. And that's what is being asked here. It's a real tough backyard. There's no room in the front yard to put the system in. Wetlands are right there. And we hit peat. We had to dig down through the peat. It's an extremely deep dig out. It's going to be an expensive system for the homeowner. So, as long as that, I feel that the amount of flow that he can provide with the reduced system is adequate from what I see. But any questions you have, I feel free to ask George or myself at this time.
And Mark, could I add one thing? Is of the particular loading rate that we use for this, which results in the largest size system that the code triggers. I've applied this particular loading rate, which determines the size of the leaching field, but on really, really bad, dense material that does not allow any water movement. Both holes that we excavated, there was a lot of water movement. So I'm confident that we will, by making the system smaller, isn't going to make it not leach properly, because I think the system's quite large. And again, the other big thing is it's not in a water protection district, and we are maintaining that 4-foot separation, which is required. So we're going to provide there's going to be adequate horizontal separation before the effluent hits the groundwater, and it's going into an aquifer, which is not related to a drinking water source. So I'm not saying it's not important to protect it, but it's less important than if it was in a water protection district.
And George,
And it-
to your points that you just brought up, just for the board's knowledge as well, this system was sized, there was a sieve conducted on the soil, correct?
Yes.
And by conducting the sieve, the engineer is automatically forced to use the highest loading rate, the largest system, based on the soil classification. So in reality, had the soil been able to be perked to what George is saying, where he saw motion through the soils, it probably would not have perked out at the highest rate in that soil class that would have resulted in this exorbitantly large system. That had we been able to perk it, he may have actually gotten a perk rate better or in line with the 25% reduction that he is requesting. Mark, George, did I?
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
What I was seeing for water hydraulic conductivity, I would call it, in the excavation, this was not functioning like a compact silt loam, which is consistent with this large system. So again, I just think, and then we had one. This is almost, I think if you took the two results, it'd actually be kind of in the middle of, because we got two different lab results. One was a class 2 and one was a class 3. We designed off of the class 3. So there was a better rate obtained off of one of these soil samples, but we had to design off the worst of the two. So this is a really big septic system, and the system that was in there lasted 25 years, and it's like a third of the size of what we're putting in that I'm proposing. So I'm not too concerned about longevity. We're also pressure dosing it, which
That's what I was gonna bring up, that we're using
promotes
pressure dose.
which promotes better distribution, better treatment. So just from an engineering perspective, I'm comfortable with it. From an environmental protection standpoint, because it's not in a water protection district, I'm comfortable with it, myself. But obviously, I need to make sure that the board feels the same way.
Does conservation play a part in any of this?
Yes, actually, I have a conservation meeting tonight. It's actually my second hearing for this particular project, because we are actually waiting for the outcome of your hearing. And then I know you guys have bumped heads a little bit with conservation in the past, or just from talking to Mark and Tim. But ultimately, this is going to be further away from conservation jurisdiction. There's less of there's less site disturbance. So presumably they'll be okay with the 25% area reduction. Obviously, if they're not, then I would withdraw if you guys approve this, I would withdraw the variance request and then go back to my original plan. But our goal is to obtain your approval of the variance request this evening, and then at 6:30 we go before there's the Board of Health meeting, and we'll present and get whatever plan that your board, the Board of Health approves this evening, whether it's my original application with the full leaching area or whether it's this one with the 25% reduction.
Would you mind explaining to me a little more how it will be farther away from conservation land if it's being size reduced?
So basically, the wetlands are in the back. So what we did is we reduced the length of the leaching field by 12 feet, which, because the leaching field is 12 feet shorter, we went from the system being 15 feet off the wetland to 25 feet, because just the overall disturbance in the leaching field footprint has been reduced.
Oh, it sounds good. I mean, sometimes some of these lots in this town, I don't even know how you guys configure septic systems. I just, they're horrible.
And this is I did 215 of these last year for a 3-bedroom house. This is very much the exception. And typically an expensive 3-bedroom house, you might be in the $40,000 range, and this is just prices of $62,000.
No, I'm completely comfortable
You want to make a motion, Chris?
Make a motion to approve the variance for Turnpike Street.
Okay, does he have to say it all out, Kristen, or is that good?
If, Chris, you could clarify the address, please.
All right, now I gotta pull it back up.
I'm sorry.
52 Turnpike
52.
Street.
52. I make a motion to approve the variance for 52 Turnpike Street, Southeastern, Mass.
I second. All those in favor?
Dias, yes?
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. Okay.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, George.
All right. Is my photo up or you just see a George blob?
Just a George.
I got all dressed up for you guys.
Oh.
I'm only, here it is. I'm sorry. Maybe this will work. There we are. Oh my gosh.
Hey. There he is.
See, I put my favorite orange shirt on for you.
Thank you. Are you here for the second variance as well?
I am. Yep.
Okay. That's 479 Bay Road, requesting a variance from the town regulations that require an irrigation well to be 50 feet from a septic tank and 100 feet from a leaching field. The applicant is requesting a setback of 40 feet to the septic tank and 67 to the leaching field.
Okay, this is a situation where there's an existing irrigation well on the property, and where they're putting the septic system is over in the corner of the other property, but it's still 67 feet away from the irrigation well, and it's going to be 40 feet from the septic tank. In Title V, this would be allowed with an LUA reduction, but our regulation doesn't specify whether irrigation well or potable well. It says all wells must be 100 feet from the field and 50 feet from the septic tank. So I don't have an issue with the board granting a variance, and hopefully once COVID's over, we'll redo our well regulations.
Thank you.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, thank you.
So then you can see that.
Can maybe see. If Kristen could figure out how to move things now.
Just zoom in.
You're doing good, Kristen, just to get this up.
So-
What do I need, Mark? The other corner of the property or?
You gotta hit the bar and pull down. Over
Just
on the
scroll
right.
down on the right.
There you go. Now you can see, if you see the circle, that's the irrigation well, the tank. Looking at the plan is to your right, and the field would be north of it based on the arrow. So you can see the location of the well.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, this is completely approvable, and I suspect if there were some sort of appeal, it just, common sense wise, why make someone have to go to the state? But I mean, it's fine.
And it's just a local regulation that,
No,
you know, we
Yeah.
need cleaned up. I think we didn't have well regulations in 2009 when we got here, so we scrambled to get some out, and it's time that I relook at it. And
yeah, no, I'd make it a motion to approve the variance for 479 Bay Road in Easton.
I second. All those in favor?
Dias, yes?
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. Thank you, George.
All right, thank you very much. You folks have a good night. Thank
You
you,
too.
everybody, for your help. Good night.
Good night. Okay, so now we have action discussion. The first thing on the agenda is the novel coronavirus, an update.
Right, and I'm gonna test my capacity again by trying to screen share. Yay. My goodness. I'm batting 1,000 today.
If you're not 290 Turnpike Street, I don't know if I have the wrong agenda.
you do have the wrong agenda.
Okay.
There was one that was, was updated.
Okay. All right, so, oops, now I'm going in the wrong direction. Oop. Start over, okay. So here we are tonight for a brief, this isn't our typical last week we would have had our typical update, but because of the snowstorm, we did not. So I kind of updated our slides to give you a little visual tonight as well. So where are we today? Kind of lead off with this. We currently are at 1,540 confirmed cases of COVID in Easton since March. This is through the data collection, the information that was pulled last Wednesday that backs up to basically January 30th. We're always a little bit behind because the state obviously can't pull data down for 351 communities in real time. We have dropped back into the yellow range. We are no longer in the red range. We continue to see spread in households, and we continue to see sport activities resulting in a number of people being placed in quarantine. As of right now, CTC is not currently taking any individual for a second encounter. So if we have a person who is a contact playing basketball this week and they clear their quarantine and they become a contact again in 2 weeks, CTC won't look at them. We have to figure out how we're going to take care of that, as well as continue to put pressure on the state to support us as more and more is being pushed down to us as far as our activities, as now we are becoming the primary point person for a lot of vaccine activity as well.
May I ask, I'm sorry to interrupt, but why won't the CTC take them up? I don't know what the rationale is.
I don't either, and I haven't been able to get a clear answer yet. And I think as we start ramping up into more vaccine activity and just other activities, it's going to become crucial that pressure be applied and that they revise that stance and continue to take them. It's easy for them, in my opinion. They're doing it all day. What contacts are not super difficult, especially since they're dealing with the primary case most of the time. But it's starting to transition over into now we're seeing people that were contacts that were sent to CTC that 3, 4, 5 months ago, but now are becoming positive cases and CTC won't take them. So there's some work and some leveraging that needs to be done on that front as well, because it is definitely beyond our staff capacity, although we have made some adjustments that I'll speak to in a few minutes. I did want to throw these numbers up just to kind of give everybody an idea of where we were with our positivity. And as you can see, back in early November, our positivity was fairly low. And then it started to creep up. And this correlates with a lot of different things. One thing that it does correlate with, and you can actually see in, I don't like the way this is flipping, but I'm gonna go to doing it this way, even though it's not the full screen. One of the things that you can see is the change in the number of tests. You can see that for the data range of November 1st to November 14th, over 6,000 tests were being conducted. Remember, each of these overlaps by a week. So as you move into the November 8th to November 25th, we have 6,000 cases. Then you start to see the number of tests start to drop off. This correlates with Stonehill going home for the holidays and going remote. So our number of tests went down. But you also start to see our positives going up and our positivity rate going up. And this correlates, again, right with Thanksgiving, with the colder weather, with people indoors more than they are outdoors. So there are a lot of factors in there. But one that you can very easily notice is the number of tests that were being conducted. our switch over to yellow, you can see what happened for the date range of January 17th through January 30th, the number of tests became significantly higher. A number of positives stayed about the same, but our number of tests became higher. And that had to do with Stonehill coming back to campus and their onboard testing and the numbers kind of shifting. It also comes along with the fact that now the state is starting to see a decline post-holiday in the number of cases, in the percent positivity overall throughout the state. Tonight's number is shockingly low compared to what we have been seeing. Tonight's data that was just released by the state was that there were only 1,276 positive tests. I don't recall seeing a number below 2,000. Admittedly, I've stopped paying super close attention because it just is always there no matter what we do. So I did just want to kind of give you an idea of that's where we are with these numbers. That's where our percent positivity number comes from. It's a simple function of how many positives and how many tests. The more tests we have, the more diluted those positives become, and the opposite happens when there's less testing going on.
Is there a way to isolate Stonehill to get a true measure of the town, where we are?
I could try.
I mean, I know that's been a question, and I don't, being in the yellow is great, and some people really, I don't know, it's like, I think there's a prize somewhere if you stay in the yellow the longest, but it would be nice to know. I don't find it completely accurate based on Stonehill, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's, and if you can't, or if there's no feasible way to differentiate or isolate Stonehill's numbers versus the town itself, that's completely fine. I just figured I'd throw it out there to see if it was possible. But if you can't, you can't.
I can try. That's all I can say is I can try, because it'll mean not only is it just, I mean, at first glance, you can look at these numbers and say, okay, well, what if we change that 7,000 back to something in the 3,000 range? But then we'd also have to compensate for the positives that they have on campus.
Right.
I can't say that it's a sustainable, but we will do our best to try.
So those, like us being in the yellow right now is.
It should not instill confidence. It shouldn't be, oh, the game has changed. We're all clear now. Boom,
Yeah,
boom.
no, it's because of Stonehill. Numbers.
It's a lot of different. Stonehill is definitely a contributing factor in my mind. I think it's also that we're past the holidays and people have been woken up that the numbers did go up through the holidays. They saw spread within their own families. They saw spread at their neighbors' houses, and people have been being, I think, better in these couple of weeks since the holidays. So I think it's a multifaceted, but it definitely, Stonehill does have an influence. Now, it could also influence us the opposite way. If they were to have an outbreak, you know, we would bear the brunt of that as a town as well. I'll see what I can do to tease out some differentiation on the numbers, but that won't change. The state isn't going to go to that level. Mm-hmm. And we saw that early on when these color codes were associated with other things, and there were towns that were red because they had a prison, and you know there was no relief given and no explanation. It was left to each of us on our own to interpret and explain to our populations why our numbers looked a certain way. And for us, I mean, I don't think that there's been a huge, obviously, even if we go back to the data range, you know, late December, before Stonehill did come back on campus, they did onboard testing, which is, I think, where we see this almost 5,000 number. Kids, teachers, everybody was required to test negative before coming back on campus. So we see a little increase here in the number of tests. But on our own, you know, we were up around 7.8%. I think the state's rate, if we look at the change between this data band of January 3rd to January 16th up to today, it has been decreasing statewide. As I just mentioned, there's only 1,200 cases for today. But I will see what I can do about teasing out, and it may not be exact, but it may be able to shed a little subtle shading on what this number actually means.
Kristen, at Stonehill, are they being routinely and mandatorily tested?
Yes, yes. They are, everybody is tested, everybody on campus, from the cafeteria workers, through the custodians, through the students that attend in-person classes, athletes, professors, office workers, everyone is tested at least weekly.
Okay.
There are people that are, because if they're an athlete, if they're involved in a high-risk activity, if they have a high-risk job, they're tested twice. And yes, it is mandatory. It is part of your schedule. If you are a student and you are on campus, you have an assigned time every single week that you are expected to go and show up for your testing. They're doing a phenomenal job over there. I had the opportunity prior to us doing our testing site to get a tour with Deputy Chief Carroll of the operation over at Stonehill.
I will say, as the parent of a Stonehill student, it's not very fun there right now, and they are running a tight ship, from what I've been told. If they're in their dorms, they're only allowed to leave for a glass of food, and that is it. So they're essentially locked down, at least until I believe they're hoping to resume somewhat of a normal schedule on February 15th.
Correct. They're in a pause right now because when the kids did come back to campus, they did see an increase in the number of cases over what they saw for the first half of the year. And they are extremely proactive, extremely involved in these numbers, and made some decisions to go to a remote pattern. Believe it began at 6 o'clock last Thursday evening, and is going through to, as Chris said, the 15th. Just a chance to kind of take a pause, make sure everybody's tests are where they're supposed to be, make sure that there isn't any mechanism for spread that they can control. And then the hope would be that they would be able to go back to what they had been doing for the first half of the year, which was quite remarkable, the low numbers that were coming out of Stonehill. So if I move on to the next slide, the state has gotten rid of, I can't find on the website the graphic with the 3 columns. They've kind of gone to more of this little bit more linear type of graph. So anybody in phase 1 is eligible. Right now we're at the first step of phase 2, which means that any individual over the age of 75 is also eligible. With that in mind, I don't believe if I had the chance to tell you guys the last time we met that the town had run its first responder clinic using town personnel. This included 20 firefighters / paramedics who were trained for COVID vaccine administration. And it included our staff being trained and having our first exposure to the state's vaccine platform management system called PrepMod, which is how we did all the clinic registrations. This past Friday, the town ran its first clinic for eligible residents. We had 250 eligible employees and residents that received vaccines, a mix of some that were eligible in phase 1 that we weren't able to get to, and others being those 75 and olders that are now eligible as part of phase 2. Our ability to do these clinics is completely dependent on vaccine supply, and we continue to leverage all our available supply chains to secure vaccines. The survey piece where I think I've spoken before, where we're able to request, we were told we can only request 100 doses a week. And we were initially told not to expect to receive any in February. And quite to our surprise, last Tuesday, the 100 that we requested showed up. We were able to pivot very, very, very quickly. Tuesday, we found out we had an additional 100 doses to the 150 that we had secured through another avenue, and staff worked relentlessly to get those 75 and older residents registered into the clinic via phone calls. We did not have any seniors accessing websites or trying to register themselves as they would have to if they were going to Gillette or any of the other mass vaccination sites. Seniors that had requested to be placed on a contact list were given personal phone calls. Voice messages were left, people were called back, and the end result after about 350 phone calls was that we had 250 people lined up for vaccines. The clinic went over 8 hours on Friday and was, by all accounts, a resounding success. Very, very long day, but a very successful and appreciated day by the community. The town is in the process right now of conducting surveys of some of the populations that will become eligible later on in phase 2, so that we can plan for future clinics and advocate for vaccine supply to be able to do things efficiently and service our community. These populations include the housing authority, teachers, K through 12 staff that will become eligible later in phase 2, DPW staff that will become eligible. We would like to be able to offer it as conveniently as possible to anybody that becomes eligible here in Easton, but it's all dependent upon the supply chain. So we continue to plug ahead with that. Ongoing prevention pretty much hasn't changed too much, except that we're actively seeking vaccine. The executive team continues to meet twice a week. We continue to do a daily check-in with the schools. We're in the process of having additional staff trained in the state's system Maven. And by train, this is actually shifted. Tim has now approved and has access to Maven, and the training is now actually how he can best utilize and start actually working on his own on some cases and some follow-up that is needed through Maven. The website continues to be updated. We're trying to focus on easier access to information and resources that are relevant to what people are looking for today. That pretty much being, how can I get a vaccine and where can I get a vaccine? There's been a survey portal put up on the website last week that allows people in the next 3 categories, those over the age of, the current category of those over the age of 75, those over 65, and those with 2 comorbidities, to register online rather than having to call the Board of Health or the COVID line. And we are able to do a data dump as often as we need to and incorporate those into the list the same way we're maintaining the people that are calling or emailing the COVID line, so that we constantly have a working list of the next available group that is interested in receiving the vaccine locally. That's all I have for tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one,
Sure.
not a tough one. It's an easy. So,
You sure?
no, yeah. And this has come up several times. If a business has employees that become positive and they wish to reach out, they wish to reach out to the Board of Health, what would you like them to put in, like, the reason, or sort of, shows some priority as far as
Subject line, you mean?
subject line, we're looking for some guidance.
I think, and Tim, Mark, you can speak to this as well, because we did have an incident, Chris, that one got caught in my spam filter. So this is actually a good point. The best thing, they can call, number one, and
Leave
say,
a message, or if it's weekends or whatever, okay.
yep, they can call, they can email, but I would say, probably blunt, Easton Business reporting COVID positive seeking guidance. That's gonna jump off the page.
Works for that. Yeah, I didn't even, I was unaware, and I hate it when I can't answer a question. So
No, I had to go looking, and I did find it. It had gotten caught in the spam filter because it wasn't that blunt. We are receiving multiples. We've got one today from an area restaurant. They are required when they have positives to inform us. Actually, I think we had 2 or 3.
is it just restaurants and gyms, or does any business have to let you guys know?
Any business is supposed to let us know.
Oh, okay.
And one of the first things we're checking is that they filed the appropriate plans with us. And it's an opportunity then for us to make sure that they have all the resources that they need, that they have the educational materials, that they're aware of what they're supposed to do based on the type of business that it is.
No, it's important that the businesses know that you guys are there to help them, not
Absolutely.
the Gestapo. Just
The best resource we've been able, I think the most appreciated resource we've been able to provide is that quarantine and isolation calendar that is just cut and dry, that they,
all day.
hey, we're here on this day, this is the protocol, and those are going out, fairly routinely when we know about them. But yeah, the call or a very blunt subject.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I like blunt. Hit me with a 2x4.
Kristen, do we still have interns or are they gone?
They're gone.
They're gone. Okay.
No longer have the interns.
Anybody else have any more questions for Kristen? Thank you for that update, Kristen. Okay, then I guess we can move on to, I hope I don't mispronounce her name. Is it Katia Tavares?
I believe that's correct.
Give me a moment and I will move her into the meeting room.
Okay.
Katia, you've been promoted to a panelist, but you're showing up as being muted. You can feel free to unmute yourself and turn your camera on if you'd like.
Okay.
So Katia Tavares.
Hi.
Hello, looking for an approval of application for permanent makeup body art license.
Okay. To the board through the chair, just like to address you. Katia and I have been working pretty hard over the last, I'd say, month and a half. First of all, you guys approved the facility at 105 Washington Street last meeting for the use of body art in that facility. And now she's here to get the approval for her license. And under the body art bylaw that we have, no, I'm sorry, regulation, not bylaw, that we have, the Board of Health has to approve each individual practitioner of body art. That being said, I've reviewed her classwork, her certificates. She seems very knowledgeable and very well trained. And I'd let her introduce herself and explain the things she's going to be doing. There's going to be some permanent makeup. There's going to be some tattooing, the rebuilding of the rebuilding of the nipple after cancer surgeries and stuff. Areola, thank you. Sorry, inappropriate usage of it, but really impressive stuff. So, if you'd like to ask her a question, just an informal little how you doing, and maybe she could explain what she's going to be doing there.
Thanks, Katia.
Yes.
So, Katia, can you explain to them what you'll be doing there?
Yes. I'm going to be doing permanent eyebrows, permanent eyeliner, and outline lips, and areola, and hairline restoration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and scar camouflage. Yeah, that's it.
Wow, that's really great.
Thank you.
So like, what else we have to do is I've spoken with her on the phone today, and we'll set up an appointment to, if you guys decide to approve it today, which I hope you do, is go to her facility, just inspect the facility, make sure it falls, everything's under the code of the body art regulation that we currently have.
Okay. Now, I just have a question because it's new to me to hear about the areola and the hairline. Do people get referred out to you? Like, it's the first I've heard that that's something that's done, and I just might not be as up on things as other people, but do people look for that? Do doctors refer out? Like, how does that work?
A doctor refer out, and on your social media, people been looking for it too.
Good to know.
Hmm.
Good to know we have that in Easton.
Yeah, I have a friend in Connecticut.
Mhm.
She does a permanent makeup. A lot of people been asked her for it, and she's already referred them to me because she didn't take a class at the high class. She only knows the basic and or the highest.
Right.
Yeah. She said she will refer it to me, and we have to go to doctor's office and let them know that we do, and the doctors always refer them to us. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I have a
In addition-
neighbor that had it done as part of her reconstructive surgery after breast cancer.
No, yeah, it's after a year. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And she's up to date in her CPR certification and her bloodborne pathogens as well.
Excellent. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Zayas, yes?
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. It was so nice to meet you and to hear about that.
And nice to meet all you guys too.
Yeah,
Best
And-
of luck.
yeah. We'll
Thank
know
you.
where to send people that are asking on social media about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, you can give me a call tomorrow morning. We'll set up a time to do the inspection then.
It's going to be snowing tomorrow, so
That's okay.
Hopefully-
Whenever you're ready, we'll make a time. Tomorrow, Wednesday, whenever you're ready.
all right. Thank you. You guys have a
All
good
right.
night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Good night.
you.
Bye.
And then the last thing on the agenda, we have the Betterment application for 21 Miller Road.
Yes, so the homeowner, they're in good standing with the town. They currently are pumping their system every 2 weeks. And so she's seeking the maximum $45,000. And we have received the plans. We just actually got them in today. So things are moving down the road, and she definitely needs to get the repair fast.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
What's the address?
21 Miller Road. Miller.
I make a motion to approve the Betterment application for 21 Miller Road.
Second,
All those in favor?
Zayas, yes?
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. Okay, so then, anything else that we need to discuss, or is that it?
That's it.
All right, thanks guys for everything you're doing. I'm sorry, were you gonna say something, Kristen?
I was just gonna say, just to note that we are putting forward an article for a town meeting for additional funds to continue with the Betterment program.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the meeting, February 8th at 5:49 PM.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Zayas, yes?
Mills, yes.
LeBlanc, yes. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Stay
Good night.
healthy.
Have a good night.